Hi, I'm Professor Alastair Pearce from Working with Creatives, the organisation that helps you work with your creative colleagues. In this video, I'm going to talk about how working with creatives helps your company develop its creative colleagues. That is, help your creatives deepen their creative skills. Well, what goes on in one of the workshops which we come and do in your company premises is we familiarise your colleagues with a number of typical creative types, and we give them names like solo, artiste, Molotov, playful, monk. And we go through those so you can recognise these creative types within your company and, crucially, start to be able to tailor the management and interactive styles you use with these people so that their creativity is deepened rather than made shallow or stifled. The other thing that happens in these sessions is we interleave discussions of those caricatures with sessions of a more sort of broad brush approach to developing the creativity of your company. These are techniques that will work for many of the creative types. And I'll just mention two or three of them now. One is company values. The purpose of your company. If this is sincere, morally admirable and loud, then you stand a good chance of your creatives buying into it and wishing to deepen their creativity to fulfill those company ambitions. That's a real aphrodisiac for creativity, for creative people, and generally works to deepen their creativity far more than the promised car parking space, or maybe even the pay rise. The incentives that the normal management procedural rule book list for getting employees to work harder and deeper doesn't often apply to your creative colleagues. A good, sincerely held, morally admirable plan or set of aims may well work. The second way of doing this is to recognise and adjust the management procedures of creatives so that you don't assume they're like everybody else and like working in teams with its normal categorisation of forming, storming, norming and performing, which is the usual way of seeing how teams work. Instead of that, creatives, at least in the early stages of creating new ideas, tend to prefer a different series of events, which are saturation, incubation, and illumination. Saturation is the sort of wandering around in the subject, looks fairly aimless, no idea about timescales. Incubation, thinking about those ideas, letting them sort of stew in the mind before illumination may or may not occur at the other end. That process does not depend, and indeed almost is the opposite of the normal teamwork, which looks for conformity, that looks for the coming together of people, the coalescence around single ideas that can then progress. That is not the saturation, incubation, illumination process. So working with creatives would teach you how to reconcile those two different approaches to working to make sure that the creatives do the deepest possible work they can. And the last idea I'll share with you today follows on from that. It's to recognise the incompatible nature of the normal industrial manufacturing model that has predictability with schedules, reporting lines, the relationship between investment and return, and all this stuff, all this mechanical stuff tends to be incompatible with the processes of creativity, which are not to do with predictability. They are to do with unpredictability, the unpredictability of the new idea, of the deepened idea of the process that truly gives you creativity. So that's what we do. That's what we do in our sessions, and along with many other things too. And what you would come away with from one of those sessions is probably 3 checklists. Checklists that you can use to assess your company's ability to deepen the creativity of its employees. So there's a checklist for the colleagues and frontline managers of the creatives. There's a checklist for the more senior managers in that organization. And there's a checklist for the board of that organization. So if you want more details, come along to the Working with Creatives website at workingwithcreatives.co.uk.